I'm a guard at a secret government prison. A few hours ago, there was a massive breach. Who's the worst, most despicable person you can think of? Jeffrey Dahmer? Ted Bundy? The Austrian painter? Of course, you could make your own arguments for any one of them, or anybody else for that matter. Yet, all of these people have one thing in common. They're still human. Preposterous people trying to act like monsters, either due to lofty, ridiculous ideals or some primal urge to revolt against society as a whole. It's quite the bizarre phenomenon. Yet, none of these admittedly sick people have truly fallen into the abyss. Perhaps they've stared down into it, dipped their feet in. But none of them have taken the plunge as a whole. Despite their efforts, they weren't able to separate themselves from their inherent humanity. But that's a good thing. They were relatively easy to take down. The bad news is that every once in a while, special cases will arise. In our circles, we call these individuals the void people, or just the voids. Individuals so far gone that they can hardly be considered humans anymore. The cause behind entities like these? Well, I wouldn't know. Nobody really does. Maybe they were born with that latent potential. Maybe they underwent some obscure supernatural transformation. Maybe their experiments gone awry. Aliens from another planet. Crap, maybe they're literal demons from hell brought here by some fool who just had to conduct some messed up ritual. Who the hell knows? The only detail that matters is the fact that they exist. And dealing with them is more than a B word. I'm sure you're familiar with the concept of max security prisons. Places where kingpins, terrorists and prolific serial unalivers etc. are sent. The places meant to contain the worst amongst humans. Well, those are a joke compared to where the voids are kept. At a pair of undisclosed coordinates built in the underground of a tiny island somewhere deep in the Atlantic, there exists a prison unlike anything you could imagine. We simply call it the Chasm. A penitentiary for pure, unbridled evil. A collective evil that would surely yield humanity's extinction in a couple of months if it were allowed to run rampant in the world. Let me emphasize this a bit further. The individuals that require being held there are not merely criminally insane. They are criminally absolutely out of this universe effing bonkers. Of course, you wouldn't know about any of this. Why would you? The government would probably sacrifice 1,000 children before they'd divulge a single detail about the place to a person without high enough clearance. But you know, that's just how they are. Before I came, there were exactly 32 being confined there. Save for 2 that were still being actively pursued through the Brazilian underground and Russian tundra respectively. That was about all of them in the world. At least, we assumed that was all of them. Can't be sure about anything these days. Each holding cell was fortified to hell, specifically designed to counter and contain the respective void they were holding. If they managed to escape, there were 8 drones armed with Gatling guns, blades, grenades and rockets waiting for them within a larger chamber. If they managed to break through that,